some of the Democrats are advancing bills that they say will protect access to abortion, and they are trying to, in essence, clip the power of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, trying to, in essence, repeal that act through the language in some of those bills.
While the country seems divided on the issue of life, the recent decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade essentially has already saved thousands of unborn babies. As states are now in control of abortion policy, many new questions arise as to how these policies will affect businesses, churches, and individuals. It took no time for pro-abortion companies to find loopholes that allow for them to provide financial support to assist employees wanting an abortion. So the question becomes how the pro-life community, whether businesses or individuals, should rise up to impact culture and make progress in a post-Roe era. And what are their rights to do so? Recently, our Belinda Lane tried to get some of those answers. Belinda, what do you have?
I had the chance to speak with Keisha Russell, who is counsel with First Liberty Institute with a concentration on religious liberty and First Amendment rights, to give us those answers. Keisha, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's get right to it. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, it feels like the Biden administration has been somewhat antagonistic recently in their language, maybe implying that they should make federal law, make some decisions into federal law, or implying that states should expand access, those sort of things. How concerning is it with language that implies that the Supreme Court is not the supreme law of the land?
Well, it's very concerning. It's certainly important that the president gives the American people the impression that he respects the judiciary so that they also respect the judiciary. It's certainly fine for him to disagree with the decision, but he always wants to maintain the ideal to the American people that it's important that they respect that decision, and it is the law of the land whether they agree with it or not.
And so with midterm elections coming up, do you feel like this will be a real benchmark issue that they're going to push to try to sway a voter who could be on the fence to vote for policy that would be pro-abortion policy?
Well, certainly, historically, we don't see that abortion is sort of a primary reason why voters choose a candidate. We always encourage, of course, people to choose a candidate that reflects their values. But I think you're more likely to see voters making their decision based on the economy and decisions that they feel impacts their lives every single day, like how much gas costs and things like that.
Which we're definitely all feeling.
Yes.
So that does make a lot of sense. I know that it's been in the news, though, that there are companies that are offering to pay for someone to cross state lines. If in their state abortion is illegal, they'll pay for them to come and get an abortion, that sort of thing. We hear that in the news. So what would you say to businesses that are pro-life about the stance they should be taking and the right that they have legally to take that stance?
I would encourage all businesses, pro-life businesses, religious businesses, to continue to live out their convictions and everything they do in their business. I think, especially now, it's really important to encourage businesses to encourage their employees to have families, and for those businesses to support their employees as they're having families, and that the law definitely protects, the business's rights to not offer, abortion-inducing drugs. In certain states that may still be offering that, and even at the federal level, if you see a push for businesses to start offering that, there will be laws that will protect. So the free exercise clause protects businesses and their ability to live out their faith and their convictions and their everyday interactions in their business, but also the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is a federal law that protects a business's right to not engage in behavior that violates their beliefs.
And that was established really before this overturning, right there. I remember hearing cases about that. So it was established law even before the overturn.
Yeah, absolutely. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act was, created in the 90s. It was actually unanimous at the time. Religious freedom wasn't as controversial then as it is now. And so that law still stands. And if you remember the case of the Little Sisters of the Poor, it's a group of nuns that did not want to pay for abortion-inducing drugs. And they were able to prevail in their court cases because of that law. And you'll see some of the Democrats are advancing bills that they say will protect access to abortion, and they are trying to, in essence, clip the power of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, trying to, in essence, repeal that act through the language in some of those bills.
So it really does matter, going back to the midterm elections, it really does matter, because if somebody's on the fence and there's a big push to sway a voter to some pro-abortion voting, it really could all have a very big domino effect. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. And I certainly think that the fact that the Supreme Court has now given the power to the states to decide how to handle abortion, I think you'll see a lot of voters begin to pay more attention to what's happening in their states. And I think it'll sort of create this balance of power between the courts and the legislature, which is really what you want to have. You don't want the Supreme Court or the court in general to become the lawmaking branch of government, because that's not their job. You really want that to remain with the legislature. And I think you'll find the voters are going to start paying more attention to what's happening in those local elections now because of an issue like this.
Absolutely. So what would you say to a pro-life, maybe not even necessarily just a Christian business, a business that's just pro-life, that would want to take some sort of stance? Yeah,
I always encourage Christians and the pro-life community to be really bold and consistent in their movement, in their approach to this issue, because that's how we got here in the first place. The pro-life community has been very persistent in trying to advocate for the lives of unborn children, and I think that's why we're where we are today, that they just wouldn't stop. And so there's no reason to take your foot off the gas right now. Keep going, keep being persistent, and stand strong in your convictions. And there may be times when you have to suffer penalty for that, whether it be socially or otherwise. But certainly if it's legally, you can always call First Liberty. Go to firstliberty.org for help, and we'll be there to help you through whatever persecution you'll face.
So in closing, what words of encouragement would you give in this post-Roe era? There's been years and years of prayer for us to have Roe v. Wade overturned. But now we're living that out. What would you say, what you see professionally, but even just in your own world, why this is progress and why this is important?
Well, certainly as a lawyer, I think it's really important because, like I said before, we really need balance of power. The Supreme Court has become so important, and more important than even Congress in some ways, because the court has stepped in and become sort of the lawmaking branch. And really, we just want that kind of balance to be restored, and I think that's really important. But certainly personally, I'm ecstatic about what's happened in the Dobbs opinion and the fact that the states now have the right to protect unborn life according to the values of the residents. And so I think just both personally and professionally, it's a great victory.
Well, Keisha, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I hope that as this does progress in our culture and in time, that you will come back and join us and we can hear from you again.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.